Hey, y'all, it's me, Melissa Wade, and thank you so very much for tuning into this week's segment of Triangle Empowered. Triangle Empowered, where knowledge is power. So, this month is Black History Month, and to kick off Black History Month, we want to start the conversation this month on the impacts of slavery. Now, of course, not many of us at all have been able to say we've been impacted personally, being there, but our ancestors were. And the impact that it's had on our race and on our culture of people and things like that still exists. It's still there. Because believe it or not, the impacts of slavery still haunts many of us today. So truly, it's a topic that we want to cover. So today, we have Dr. Roderick Heath. He is the director of Men's Achievement Center with North Carolina Central University, Eagle Pride. He's also the CEO of Generation Uplift Incorporated and Heath Educational Consulting. Y'all, please help me welcome Dr. Heath. How you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to talk about our history. So it's something that I get excited about. So thank you for the opportunity.
Well, we're talking about race, and you being a Black man, I'm sure you have some wonderful insight, because not only does it impact a lot of us as African Americans, and like I said, having, our ancestors being the ones to come through it all and still feeling that impact. Now, a lot of Black men really feel that impact, and we can see it through everything that's going on in society today. So Dr. Heath, thank you again for being a part and giving us more insight. As we get started, let's go ahead and start with our first question. How can we, or how do we overcome mental slavery through all this?
Well, I think if you look at it, when people say get over slavery, it happened so many years ago. But you think about it, when we look at decades, or that was a decade ago, that's a long time still. But when you look at 400 years of a race been locked down, no financial stability, and everybody's building their wealth off your backs, and they tell you to get over something. And so we have this Stockholm syndrome, right? We still pass down some of them slavery rituals. In 2021, we could say, oh, that was so far long ago, that didn't affect me. Yes, it does, because your family, your ancestors didn't have a chance to leave you anything. And if you look at slavery, you can even look at the insurance companies, where that's where it started from, because they would put insurance on their slaves, on their Black men, on their strongest men. And if you look at it today, how it affects us is because we're still trying to build. You had the 80s, you had the crack epidemic, then you had the civil rights movement. We've never had a chance to have a stable ground. And so to overcome this slavery, one, for men, we got to realize our worth as Black men and love ourselves. That's why we're having so many gang shootings. And the goal is, once the family gets strong again and we love each other and we invest within ourselves. I argue with people all the time. They said we was better when we were segregated. I say, yeah, but if we were still segregated, they're doing a lot of things in our face right now. So imagine if we were segregated, we still will be lost. So we got to stay at the table. And so for me, I think to overcome it, one, we got to build our own generational wealth. We got to educate ourselves mentally, spiritually, and we need to find out the root to our pain. And the root to our pain is we're still living on those rituals that they pass down. Just think about it. New Year's, every year, the average Black family, and I may be just over speaking, they cook the collard greens, the pinto beans, and they say it's going to bring the wealth in every year. And me and my mom and grandma, we argue about this all the time. I'm like, well, grandma, the Black family been dealing with this for so long. When the wealth gonna come? She said, well, just keep praying, baby. I said, I understand. I said, but grandma, you don't think we need to let some of these rituals and things that we're holding on to and build our New Year's, we should be, okay, let's find a Black family. We're going to pay your car off this month, man. That's how you build. You get what I'm saying? And so when we let go of those old rituals and build our own new things, I think that's how we can move the population and the generation forward.
Dr. Heath, I know that one of my leaders say, we were taught, so we thought back then. But now we have a new mindset. We have to go ahead and adapt. We have to support each other. So I truly agree with you. I love what you're saying about that. So how do we remove these community barriers in our African-American communities to move forward and out of what we're into?
Well, we have a couple things in our community. And I feel like one of the biggest nuggets, if you look at the Black church brings in billions of dollars every year. But and there's so many people that go every Sunday. One, let's start the knowledge base in the church. If you have so many attendees, one Sunday, let's say, you know what, we're going to talk about financial wealth this Sunday. We're going to talk about how to build your credit. We're going to bring in realtors, black brokers, stock market guys. We're going to tell y'all how to get in the game. I think that's a good cornerstone in the community. We have neighborhood community centers. Like, we have to have these leaders, and we have to get off social media and just be posting for the fun of it. No, let's really see some action. Let's create committees. If you know somebody in your community is good at financial wealth advising, or they're good with their money, how can you pull them to the table and offer these free sessions to these families? No, everybody may not come, but for the ones who really want to know, if they say you build it, they will come. And so we haven't been building things for them to come. You know, we're building new schools, we're building sports arenas for us to entertain them. But when are we going to stop getting tired of entertaining and get our money so we can entertain ourselves, you know? And so I feel that once we come together and create some alliances and coalitions within the community, the church, within the higher education institutions, like even North Carolina Central, you look at it, it's right beside McDougal Terrace. And then on the other side of McDougal Terrace, you got another community college. I call it the sandwich. But in the middle of it, you have one of the highest crime rate areas in Durham. And I'm wondering how on both sides of this neighborhood, there's 100% black almost, and we're not bringing people up out of that situation. So as a university on my end, I'm working to get into the community. I'm teaching my young men how to go back into the schools. We're going in, we started a reading club for black boys. Every Friday we get on and we read to them, and we're showing them that we're here and we're trying to bring you out. We're going to Durham public housing, and we're just not dropping off items and say free food. No, how can I help you? And so I think that for the people that we feel are educated or went to college, I feel like college is not for everyone, but education is. And so if you have this man that's the neighborhood mechanic, how can we get him to school so he can get certified instead of him working on the tree? No, we're going to get you at the big place and we're going to make you make $30 an hour. Your services is good. You do all that you can do. So we have to look at the whole totality of our neighborhood and find our strengths. You know, Booker T had a talented 10th, right? So if we look at the talented 10th, who are our talented 10th? And how can we trickle this back down to the neighborhood? And if you look at Booker T. Washington, he said you needed more hands-on. So if we bridge them two together, I think that's how we can empower the neighborhood and the community.
Oh, I love it. We got to pull each other up by our what do they say, bootstraps or whatever, or something like that. We got to support one another.
We got to support us. That's it. That's it.
You can't hold that knowledge and hold it for yourself and make yourself rich. The way you make people rich or make yourself rich is to make those around you as rich as well. So I totally agree with that, Dr. Heath. Wonderful, wonderful knowledge with that. Now, earlier you mentioned something about addressing the Stockholm syndrome. Mm-hmm. And for those who are watching right now, mm-hmm. who are saying, what was that? What did he mean by that? Can you define what that is? And within the African American community, how can we address that?
Well, if you look at Stockholm, it's really psychological, right? It's kind of like a woman who's in a domestic violence relationship, and the individual continues to abuse them, and then they blame themselves. And maybe I'm the reason he or she keeps hitting me. Maybe it's me. Woe is me. And you don't look at the root of the problem. And so you kind of build that on and you take on that pain. And so you kind of blame yourself. And if you listen to the Black community sometime, I feel like one of our biggest things that we can overcome Stockholm syndrome is like, I hate when people say the system or the white man doing this. No, if you know what they're doing, if you know how the system is, how can we break the system, right? For instance, I'll take it, I'm having a program tonight, building the relationships between Black officers and Black men, right? But in the community, we'll say you a snitch if you work for the police. But if you say officers are bad, how can we get more Black men into the system to break the Black bad officer syndrome, right? And so we're blaming them, but at the same time, we have to take on some of that and say, look, it ain't all them, or they come to our community to know, what are we going to do about it? If we want senators, lawyers, we got to get into the system and change it. And so when you look at Stockholm, it's developed over years of oppression. And if the Black community, it's time to heal, right? We have one of the biggest depression and issues in our community, and it's come from just years of pain. I watched a video last night in Thomasville. This mother went live on Facebook, and somebody had just killed her baby in a drive-by shooting. Just to hear the scream in that mama's voice, I felt the pain from the phone. And I'm like, nobody knew what happened. Like, no, we need to protect our neighborhood. Somebody knows something.
Yeah.
Somebody know that, mom, even if that's your son, you know he did wrong. You owe that to that family to go over there and say, look, son, turn yourself in. You made a mistake. I'm still going to love you. So we look at Stockholm. We have to address the whole psychological issue. We know slavery existed. We know what happened in the 60s. We knew what happened in the 80s. And now we have a new generation of babies that's fighting a new challenge. Are we going to let this next generation carry the weight of all these other years? And so it's time to take the weight off these kids back. It's time for parents to get involved. The same way we show up for basketball games, we've been fighting to make sure the NBA is playing. The same way they stormed the Capitol. We got to get Black parents into the school at these PTA meetings. Like, oh, y'all got a full house? I'm standing out here till somebody can let me in. I'm going to see what's going on with my baby. Until we do that. And now when I seen the Capitol, I hated that. But what I thought about it is those men fought for something that they thought was right, even though it was wrong. And so as a community, we got to fight for what we believe in and what we need. And we got to show up and be present. People say your vote didn't count. If you didn't see it this year, we flipped Georgia. And that was not because minorities got out there and made their voice been heard. And so even with the Black Lives Matter, we're making movements. And so if we get into make organized noise and not just burning stuff down and just be organized with our thoughts and our movements. You think about the civil rights, they didn't have no phones, no emails, but they were able to shut down a bus system for over a year or two. Come on now, we got social media. We got all the tools that they didn't have. You know, a letter might not get to Texas on a horse for 8 months later. You know what I'm saying? And we can shoot it in 30 seconds.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking if we're going to overcome that, use our tools and heal within our families. Sit at our tables, eat dinner together. Put the technology down for a minute. Find out what's going on in your child's life. Find out why your mate is having these issues or he's depressed. Because there's a lot of pressure for a Black man because, you know, we're getting killed in the streets. We're trying to build families. And the world looking at us like we're evil. And so you take all that into consideration. If you don't have an outlet, and if you're fighting in your house, that's a lot of issues. You know what I'm saying? Your house is supposed to be your safe place. It's supposed to be your escape from the real world.
Your safe haven. You're right. Yeah. Well, Dr. Heath, you've given us so much knowledge, so much insight. You know, the impacts of slavery, we can move forward, pretty much is what you're saying. You know, we just got to recognize what we need to do. And the bottom line is we can and we will together move forward. So thank you. Before you get out of here, really quick, I know, you know, me being a mom of a young man raising a black young man, I know that you work with them. Do you have any a website or Facebook page that you can suggest for some moms who say, hey, look, I want this to be instilled in my young Black man. I love this Dr. Heath guy.
Yes, and so we do. If you look us up, for the young men, most of the young men have Instagram. So if you look up NCCU MAC, that's our MAC page, and we put up daily inspiration, daily programming, anything that we're doing. And if you Google us, you can look us up on North Carolina Center's website. Type in Men's Achievement Center, and that's where you'll find all our knowledge. You'll have my email. Outside of North Carolina Central University, I do life strategy coaching. So if you have a young man who needs support, we can sit down one-on-one and I can help him strategize his next move in life. Females, it doesn't matter. Adults, if you have a husband that's struggling with some things, I work with all people. You know, I've worked in the prison. I've worked with homeless men, homeless women. And so just check us out. Once again, follow those sites. My email address is rheath, the number 1 at nccu.edu. I'll return your email and we can set something up. So thank you guys again. I hope that I said something that resonates in your brain today. And so we are one, stronger together.
Again, Dr. Heath, thank you so very much. We have enjoyed you tremendously. All right, y'all, we've covered a lot today, and I look forward to continuing this conversation next week. So thank you all so very much for tuning in. Triangle Empowered, where knowledge is power. We will see you again next week.